Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. So, I've got another adventure deck for you, definitely celebrating the Water Enchantress Set 2. And this deck is also featuring another recent unlimit, and that's going to be King of the Swamp to 3. Now, when that ban list got announced, I said to y'all that King of the Swamp at 3 is going to be a bit of a game changer for Tearlaments, and there were some people who were doubting, but even after doing just a little bit of testing with a build like this, I think that the King of the Swamp is definitely going to make a very, very powerful addition for the Tearlament deck, even beyond an adventure slash synchro build like I'm going for here. I'm playing the adventure stuff and the Revolution Synchrons just because, one, I do think it is actually good. I think this is a legitimate variant of Tearlaments, but two, also, I definitely just want to use these cards. They're cool and fun, and I like them. But again, even if you're not playing the adventure and synchro stuff, I think the 3 King of the Swamp is still going to be very, very good for Tearlament. So we played this build on stream, the same stream that we played Adventure Prank Kids. If you're interested in seeing that, you can check out the links below to find not only my Twitch channel, which should have the VOD on it, but also my second YouTube channel, which has my stream VODs on it as well. So, and one thing that we found very quickly is that this deck has like almost no dead hands, and King of the Swamp actually helps a lot with that, especially going second. Being able to discard it and grab Polymerization enables a lot of various plays, one of which is going for Guardian Chimera. And honestly, just fusing 3 random monsters into Guardian Chimera is a lot better than it might sound. It's not an ideal play, certainly, but going second, it can definitely help clear up the board and also, of course, cycle some cards. And if any of them happen to be tier names, well, of course, then we get to proc their effects as well. For those who aren't aware, if you use Polymerization and fuse a Tearlaments monster, you are sending it to the graveyard by a card effect that will activate the Tearlaments card's effect in order to then fuse itself. So you might be thinking, you know, vanilla poly, like regular Polymerization, is really that good in this deck? It actually is. King of the Swamp, of course, also has another big benefit, in addition to being able to be used as a, way to search out the Polymerization. This card can also be used as a named substitute for a fusion material. Now, what that means is that you can only, if I recall correctly, I believe, because it has to be a fusion material whose name is mentioned on the fusion monster card. So for Kiklos, for example, you can use King of the Swamp as the Aqua monster, but you can't use it as the Tearlaments monster because this isn't naming a specific monster. Rolkalos, on the other hand, specifically names Tearlaments Kiklos, so you can fuse King of the Swamp with a Tearlament monster to summon Rolkalos. More importantly, or I guess the more, importantly for King of the Swamp in particular, is the Grapha fusion, which we have used this card in the past. Grapha, Dragon Overlord of the Dark World. With the King of the Swamp, you can fuse King of the Swamp as the Grapha, and then any dark monster, which of course can be the Tearlaments fusers, and then make the Grapha, which does act as a sort of Omni-Negate. It doesn't actually negate a card, but basically it allows you to change the card's effect into discarding a card of your choice. That is discarding by an effect, by the way, which will proc not only your Tearlaments fusers, but also, like, literally every other Tearlaments card, right? They all have effects when sent by a card effect. So, definitely works very well within the deck here. But again, we also are rocking the Adventure Engine with Water Enchantress back at 2. We've actually played a deck like this in the past, but that was last season when Water Enchantress was still at 1, and we were using Terratop to kind of compensate for that. I didn't really like playing Terratop in a build like that. It felt very clunky. Now that Water Enchantress is at 2, I feel fine taking out the Terratops because it's not only reasonable for us more so now to open Water Enchantress, but also to mill Water Enchantress. The only bit of confliction that happens between the Adventure and the Tearlaments plays are sometimes you do have to normal summon Rhinoheart in order to start your plays, like you don't have any other way to do it. And in those situations, yeah, you can't normal summon Rhinoheart and then do adventure stuff. But that comes up very rarely. Like, it's pretty rare that, like, that instance will just happen in general, right? That you will not only need to summon Rhinoheart, but also need to do adventure lines. And honestly, most of the time, you're gonna do your plays without normal summoning Rhinoheart, which is kind of wild. It's just insane how many plays this deck has. So we do have some kind of like generic support cards as well in the form of like Fairy Tale Snow and Destrudo, really like to get milled. Destrudo also good because we are rocking not just one but two level 7 Synchro monsters. In addition to the Ancient Fairy Dragon, we're also playing Black Rose Dragon. Those are mostly because of Revolution Synchron, which is going to be another big engine in this deck. So Revolution Synchron with a level 4 monster on the field can become one of the level 7 Synchros. Ancient Fairy can help cycle between our field spells, but another way we can access our field spells is actually through VODS Omniterra. So basically, if you have Revolution Synchron plus any level 4 monster, you can summon the level 4 monster to the field, activate Revolution Synchron from your hand, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. You don't actually activate the effect of Revolution Synchron, you just click on your extra deck, and you just use this as a synchro material from your hand. So after you summon the level 4 monster, you go to your extra deck, summon out the Ancient Fairy Dragon using it and the Revolution Synchron in your hand. You can then special the Revolution Synchron from your graveyard as a level 1 to then sync with the Ancient Fairy Dragon for VODS Omniterra. One or more tuners plus 1 light monster, Ancient Fairy Dragon is the light monster, and that will allow you to search Pearl Rhino and potentially make plays where you might not have them before. If you have to normal summon the monster, you can't just grab Pearl Rhino, Rhino Heart rather, off of Pearl Rhino, but you could very easily grab like a Shiren or something and just kind of like play out from there, right? Another way in which Revolution Synchron is helpful in this deck is actually with the Adventure line. This is a build that I talked about last time but didn't get to show off, but I will get to show off in probably the first game we're going to watch here. But basically, if you have your adventure board set up, right, so your token plus your Wandering Griffin Rider, and you have a Revolution Synchron in hand, you can actually upgrade your adventure setup. You can normal summon the Revolution Synchron, sync it with your Griffin Rider to make the Baron de Fleur, then you can summon back Revolution Synchron by its own effect as a level 1 tuner. It's Earth, and the Rite of Armiseer, the token, is also Earth and level 4. That lets you go into Naturia Beast. So, yeah, if you have your adventure set up and you can normal summon Revolution Synchron, you can upgrade your token and Griffin Rider to Baron plus Stab Beast, which is a very scary board, even by itself. But what is also very scary is that, again, you can also, like, a lot of the time just do tier limit plays in addition to doing stuff like that. This deck is pretty versatile. It doesn't really have any, like, set combo lines. What you do is extremely hand dependent, and also extremely mill dependent as well. But again, I just found that there was like almost no instance in which you could do nothing at all with a deck like this. One thing I would change about the extra deck that it's funny, on stream I kept meaning to put this card back in, but I'm always so eager to get to the next game that I always just go into it without making the change. And that is going to be the Time Thief Redoer. I think should be in this extra deck. I'd probably take out Appaloosa. I think that's honestly the best card to take out of this extra deck is Appaloosa. It's definitely the one that comes up the least. Even Mud Dragon does come up. This might not seem like it's important, but it is. Mainly because if you open Poly, and we actually had a game like this before we put the Mud Dragon in the deck where Poly plus a tier name, then plus a random dark monster can then become the Mud Dragon, right? Which is, I guess, is pretty much just Destrudo now that I think about it. But again, just also having just the option to make this fusion target, especially if we are going to end up playing Redoer, which I do think is optimal, having another level 4 that you can potentially fuse for is pretty good here. But I'm not going to put in Redoer right this second, because the games that you're going to see, we did not have Time Thief Redoer in the extra. So I want to show you the build as you're going to see it in the games. But again, know that moving forward, I'm going to be taking out Appaloosa and putting in Time Thief Redoer. Otherwise, I can't really think of any other changes I would make to the build. Maybe in the extra deck I could maybe see dropping IP for something, but in the main deck, I love this main deck. I think it is phenomenal. I like 42 because we have a few cards that we don't particularly want to open, some adventure stuff, Destrudo, like that kind of thing. So, and the polymerization kind of is like that. We would rather open the King of the Swamp, pitch it, and search to Poly, because that puts the King of the Swamp in the graveyard to be used as a fusion material later. So, alright, let us go ahead and break this list down card by card, and then we'll see some games. So we are playing 3 Max C, 3 King of the Swamp, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Water Enchantress of the Temple, 1 Tearlaments Havness, 3 Revolution Synchron, 1 Fairy Tale Snow, 2 Tearlaments Shiren, 3 Tearlaments Rhino Heart, 1 Destrudo the Lost Dragon's Vision, 1 Wandering Griffin Rider, 1 Kashtira Fenrir, 1 Tearlaments Kashtira, 1 Polymerization, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 2 Rite of Armiseer, 1 Dracoback the Rideable Dragon, 1 Primeval Planet's Perlarino, 1 Pressured Planet Raitsoth, 1 Fateful Adventure, 2 Tearlaments Scream, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 1 Tearlaments Heartbeat, 1 Tearlaments Meta Noise, and then 1 Tearlaments Soliac. And that's going to be our main deck, which is 42 cards. Our extra deck is 1 Mudragon of the Swamp, 1 Tearlaments Kitclos, 1 Predaplant Dragostapelia, 1 Tearlaments Rolkalos, 1 Guardian Chimera, 1 Tearlaments Kaleidoheart, 1 Grapha Dragon Overlord of the Dark World, 1 Naturia Beast, 1 Black Rose Dragon, 1 Ancient Fairy Dragon, 1 Visus Amberterra, 1 Baron de Fleur, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, which again is going to be dropped for Time Thief Redoer. I did not summon this card once during our games. And then 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. So there is our list. Let's see some gameplay. Alright, our first opponent will be on Naturia Runic. And like I said, this game is going to showcase some of the interactions with Revolution Synchron. We're going to be going second to this duel. I've been going second a lot lately. But you know what? It is all good, because we're still ranking up, playing all these cool fun decks, even while still losing a bunch of coin flips lately. But anyway, normal summon Camellia, send a Sacred Tree. Looks like they're then going to access the Runic engine, which is not what I wanted to see. The ideal case scenario, if you don't open any disruption like I did here, is that Runic Naturia only accesses half of their engine. It's really one of those decks where if they only get one or the other, the deck is only at half its power. But here, nah, they're going to have pretty much everything. I mean, take the pretty much out of it. They're going to have everything. Spoiler alert, they're going to end up ending on the Baron de Fleur, plus the Fountain, plus a bunch of cards in hand. I mean, we already knew they had the Naturia Blessing in hand, so they can just bring back the Camellia, sync it with the Stardust Charged Warrior, and then they can summon, like I mentioned, the Baron de Fleur. From there, they're going to use the Runic Slumber on the Baron here, milling. What all have they milled from these so far? Yeah, Fenrir, King of the Swamp. We did lose Polymerization, which is worth noting, but definitely not the end of the world. It's definitely important to note what Runic is milling from you, but bemoaning it doesn't do you any good. And what I mean by that is like sitting here and looking at your banished pal and being like, no, now I can't play Poly. It's like, you're not advancing, like, you're not really advancing the game state by doing that, right? Like, and by advancing the game state, I mean, like, figuring out how you're going to win the game. Whereas, like, yeah, it's definitely important to note to make sure you're not missing any combo pieces that you need. But otherwise, just, like, not focusing on what you've lost, but focusing on what you have is key. So I'm going to start with the Heartbeat on the Fountain. That is, of course, going to proc the Baron here. This is naturally going to be more of a bait than anything else here. Doing it on the draw phase was actually a misplay, though, because it did allow them to bring back their Camellia during the standby phase with the Baron, sending the Sacred Tree and then getting to add another Blessing. So, not optimal, but not the end of the world either. The important thing is that the negate is out of the way. Gonna use the Water Enchantress, even though we already had the Rite of Armistier in hand, for literally exactly this reason, to bait out the Ash Blossom. So, very, very glad to have seen that from the opponent. Now we don't have to worry about that card anymore. Alright, now I'm going to use the Reinforcement of the Army for the Rhino Heart, but I'm not going to commit to normal summoning it just yet. I'm going to activate the Tearlaments Scream. Opponent's going to chain the Runic Tip here. Now that they've activated Tip, they're actually going to end up adding the Freezing Curses, and I understand, of course, why my opponent did this, but at the same time, they have just given me so much information by doing so. So now I know that if I try to go for the Rhino Heart, they're just going to get negated, and then I'm going to be left on my random 3 mills with Scream to try to find plays. On the other hand, I do have this Rite of Armistier, so even in situations like this, right, where the normal summon Rhino Heart conflicts with the Adventure Engine, which is probably the biggest question you're asking of, doesn't that hurt your deck? In this particular game state, I was actually able to turn that to my advantage, as you can see here. Because now I have this free information, now I know not to go for the Rhino Heart, I can just summon the Rite of Armistier, the token instead. Let's see, opponent's going to summon a Mole Cricket after I activate. I get the Fateful Adventure effect to add the equip spell here, which is very nice because it means I don't have to commit to normal summoning Revolution Synchron right away. But yeah, they get the Sunflower. I'm going to bounce the Fountain. They're going to end up using the Freezing Curses, but not to negate, but rather to summon. Alright, now I'm going to normal summon Revolution Synchron. Opponent does get to bring back the Mole Cricket, but that's fine. I'm going to move to battle here. That way I can get rid of the Sunflower and the Camellia for good measure. Mole Cricket's already used its effects, so don't have to worry about that. Jerry also pops a monster when destroyed by battle, so don't want to get rid of that. And now I get to do that Synchro setup that I was talking about earlier. I'm syncing the Revolution Synchron with the Wandering Griffin Rider in order to summon out my own Baron de Fleur. And hey, opponent, I heard you like Naturia monsters. Want to see my Naturia monster? This is a little thing I like to call poetic justice. Gonna pop one of their Mole Crickets for good measure. The Jerry also can't be destroyed by card effect, which is worth noting. And then, yeah, there's not really much this deck can do under both, not only Nap Beast, but also the Omni Negate as well. It's pretty nice. I was very glad to have pulled that little combo off. Especially in this matchup. This was like, mwah, beautiful, lovely way to end a duel. Love to see it. All right, let's take a look at our next game here. Okay, our next opponent is playing Labyrinth with some of the new support. Not only are they playing a set of transaction rollback, but they've got the Soul Resonator as well. Because the Soul Resonator can add the furniture, I believe. And then you don't really care if you're locked into Dark Synchros from the extra deck, right? Going second yet again, by the way. Opponent is starting off with furniture to set the big welcome, as well as a couple of other cards, and then passing over to us. Thankfully, we did open not one, but two Ash Blossom against Labyrinth, so we love to see that. Starting with the Wraithsoth, that is going to bait our opponent's Ash Blossom, so... I mean, it wasn't just a bait. We did actually want to resolve that, but, you know, if we don't, that's definitely fine. Following up with the Rite of Artemis here, I'm kind of just waiting for my opponent to activate Big Welcome at this point. Normal summoning Fairy Tale Snow, and then adding the Draca back here. Normal summoning the Snow to proc the effect to add the Draca back, because I didn't want to give up any of these cards in my hand. Alright, they finally used the Big Welcome so I can Ash Blossom it. And even though I have two Ash Blossom, yeah, I don't want to give up the second copy here. I would rather normal summon the Fairy Tale Snow. Alright, opponent's got the Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon, but thankfully we are a fusion deck, so I don't think we've given away that we're tier limit yet. I guess normal summoning Fairy Tale Snow is kind of giving it away, but this is what I was talking about earlier in the profile too, about how you can just, yeah, just kind of fuse for Guardian Chimera with 3 random monsters in your hand. This is another reason why I didn't really want to give up the Ash Blossom in hand, is for potential fusion material, but yeah, now I can just Guardian Chimera, draw a couple of cards, pop the opponent's back row, which turned out to be Imperm. They can't target, by the way, with the Imperm. The reason they didn't use that was, of course, because of the Guardian Chimera effect. Because Polymerization was in our graveyard, they weren't able to target it. It's kind of funny that we drew 2 Rhino Hearts, which was not, like, the greatest. But, you know what? It was enough to get our opponent to concede. And indeed, they would have been entirely in top deck mode afterwards. So... I know probably during the deck profile, there were a few of you who were skeptical of, like, really just fusing for Guardian Chimera with Poly. Is that actually that good of a play? As you can see here, yeah, it totally was. It, like, very, very much is. We still got a couple more duels to see, though. Let's check out the next one. Okay, this next opponent is playing new selection pack, The Deck. Because they are playing not only Red Resonator, but they're also teching an Earthbound engine into it. So... you can definitely tell they were excited for this pack to come out. This person was. Going to start by specialing the Fenrir here and using that to add the Tier Cache. Then going to normal summon the Ash Blossom and sync for the Baron de Fleur. This will actually open up my ability to mill here, because now I can activate the Tier Limit Scream. Well, first I'm going to King of the Swamp for the Polymerization. This does actually bait out the Ash Blossom, which is kind of nice. But now I can activate the Tier Limit Scream, and then I can banish the Fenrir in my yard for a Tier Cache, and that'll be a mill 6 right there. All I gotta do is hit a Fuser, and then I am good to go. Alright, got Chain Link 1 and 2. We even have the Omni Negate up. And then we're gonna mill... not a Fuser. Not the best mills in the world, unfortunately, but, you know, it happens sometimes. Alright, opponent's going to start with, as I mentioned, the Earthbound cards. Earthbound Prisoner, Stone Sweeper. Pitching that for the, which card was that? The Vision Resonator. Because that adds any level 3 or lower Fiend tuner. Does not have to be an Earthbound card, so that can add the Vision Resonator. So I decided to use the Baron de Fleur here on the Soul Resonator, because this is like their one card combo line right here, this card. So definitely want to negate and destroy that, especially if they're committing their normal to it. This card, like I mentioned before, was being played in the Labyrinth deck in the last replay, because you can normal summon this and then add furniture from your deck to your hand. And again, as a Labyrinth, you don't care if you're locked into only summoning Dark Synchros from the extra deck, because you're probably not even going to summon from the extra deck anyway, right? They did end up having the Monster Reborn here, though, so they do have the extender to bring back the Stone Sweeper. I get to use my Scream effect, but unfortunately no good mills again. Especially in the Vision Resonator, they now get to sink for 7, going for Ancient Pixie Dragon. Not Ancient Fairy Dragon, but Ancient Pixie Dragon, the dark version of this card, which I have a royal copy of, by the way, fun fact. Alright, this lets them add to the Crimson Gaia. Crimson Gaia. This card is also better than I thought it was. I thought it added a red dragon card when it was activated. It's actually just once per turn during your main phase. So, yeah, I will say that card is definitely stronger than I initially thought it was going to be. Opponent's using Fiendish Golem to banish my Baron de Fleur. This one, I think this card is kind of... I mean, it was good here for my opponent, but I don't think it's that great of a card. I'm going to activate the Rite of Armistier and unfortunately get Max Seed. Now, the thing that kind of sucks here in particular is that I don't really have anything super great to do with my Revolution Synchron since I already summoned the Baron de Fleur. And also because I'm under Max C, it's like, I don't know, I don't really have a clear way to like be able to battle over this thing, right? I've actually kind of thought about putting another level 10 Synchro in this deck, not just because of this game, but there have been scenarios where I think to myself, like, huh, if I had another level 10 Synchro, like maybe I don't know, Shang Yang is like, do I really banish that much? I guess I do have Fairy Tail Snow, but meh, I don't know. It's definitely something to consider, right? That's something about this deck's extra deck, and oh, nice, they got a Royal Soul Resonator. That's something about this deck's extra deck. It's like there's so many things you could play in it. There we go. We finally hit a Fuser, by the way. We just milled Chiron. But you could play... I mean, we're already going to play Redoer, right? Instead of Appaloosa, which is also a valid card to play. You can play Baguska and or Zeus. You could play Super Poly in your main deck and then have, like, Garura and or Starving Venom Dragon. You could play another level 10 Synchro, like I mentioned. You could play a level 8 Synchro that's not Omri Terra. God, if Chaos Ruler. This is where I'd put my Chaos Ruler if I had one. Oh, God. Yeah, in the OCG, this deck actually did exist with Chaos Ruler, and it was insane. And with Chaos Ruler Legal, they played a DML Star and a Jet Synchron and Fengli, the Soldier Palm, the level 1 plant tuner, which is a fire monster, by the way, in case you didn't know. So... yeah, it was pretty insane. Speaking of Chaos Ruler, in a way, this card I've kind of been thinking about using as a substitute for Chaos Ruler in certain decks, potentially, as part of the combo line, because when the Scarred Dragon Archfiend is sent from the field to the graveyard for any reason, you can summon out Red Dragon Archfiend from your extra deck. But if you sink a Dark Dragon, and that's how it gets sent as a material for that, you actually get to blow up all of your opponent's face-up monsters, which they're about to do to me right here. Yeah, there's the Red Dragon Archfiend, and then boom, there goes my board. So it's a very powerful card. Like, it's already a great, here, what is it? Oh, the opponent's Chain Link doesn't let me check their graveyard. Here it is. Yeah, not only is this a great extender for combo lines, like being able to, like, it's a level 8 Synchro that pulls out another level 8 Synchro, so it's kind of similar to Chaos Ruler in that way, right? But again, it also, if you are going second, even has the fun optional board wipe effect. Well, it's part of the effect, you know what I mean. Alright, so I do get to bring back Fairy Tail Snow to not only block damage from the Dissipator by turning it face down, but also by turning it face down, I now don't have to deal with the negate from it during my opponent's turn. So, gonna bring back Fairy Tail Snow during their end phase here, just for good measure. Ash Blossom is not the dry one to see, but I do have the Rhino Heart in hand, so I'm going to start by normal summoning that and then activating the Scream. Opponent's going to activate the Red Zone. Red Zone will destroy my Scream, which is a little annoying, but not the end of the world. Oh, what I should have actually done is led by activating Black Rose, since I already had the Fairy Tail Snow on the field. I could have started my turn doing that, which was a little bit of a misplay on my part, but it's not that big of a deal. Well, kind of. Well, you'll see what happens. Anyway, we're going to make the Kiklos with the Tier Cash to get that back into our deck. Then we can mill it with the Kiklos That'll let us mill 2 with the tier cash that will mill and proc the Shiren. Opponent's got another Fiendish Golem. Actually, I think they recycled that to banish my Kiklos. Maybe that card is actually not as questionable as I thought it was. Alright, gonna make a Mud Dragon here. And then now I'm going to sync with the Revolution Synchron in hand, going for my Black Rose Dragon. And I was like, ah, yeah, now I get the board wipe, and I'm going to start mounting my comeback from here. Except, oops, Soul Resonator's secret effect! It's literally just cards on their field while they control Red Dragon or a card that mentions it. I should have, you know what I could have done? Oh, what I should have done... Oh, could I have gotten Fairy... Yeah, I could have made IP, gotten Fairy Tale Snow into the graveyard, summoned it back, then turned Red Dragon face down, and then the board wipe would have gone through. I think that was the line. Maybe doing something like that. Well, I mean, I didn't read Soul Resonator during the actual game, so that's just me being a Yu-Gi-Oh player right there. Alright, opponent's gonna flip up the Dissipator, but it's pretty Jover at this point. Like, I'm going to try to activate the Happiness effect, but they even have an Ash Blossom, so... I'm just going to throw the rest of this game in a fast forward, because at this point it's just resolving this Chain Link. Oh, I guess it's not just resolving it. I do Ash their Crimson Gaia, and then they battle and... finish me off with the Red Dragon Archfiend itself. But you know what? If I'm going to take an L, I definitely don't mind taking an L to a deck as cool as this. And in some way, I guess I can now say that I showed off the new Red Dragon stuff on the channel. It was just my opponent doing the cool plays. But you know what? That's, you know, I've always been cool showing losses like this. I definitely don't mind it. If as long as we're seeing, you know what? I saw a YouTube short from Shortcat, who's a Mario Kart YouTuber, that was very, very true, and something that a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players need to learn. He said in the YouTube short that, like, a lot of people say I have a positive attitude when I lose Mario Kart races. And the reason for this is because I'm not the main character of the universe. I want other players to have fun too. And I think ultimately the most important thing is getting to see players do cool things. And if that happens to be my opponent sometimes, then that's just how life works. And I completely agree with his philosophy. It feels to me like almost every Yu-Gi-Oh player thinks they are the main character. They think they are Yu-Gi-Moto, and they think they deserve to win every single duel. When, again, sometimes you have to stop and appreciate when your opponent is the one doing really cool things. We do have one more game to check out before we end off, so let's take a look at that. And our last opponent is going to be against the Tearlaments' natural enemy, the Kashtiras. Ignore the Kashtiras in our deck. Anyway, yet another going second game. By the way, because, and I knew this was going to happen, I saw a comment in the Snake Eye video that was like, oh, you only won after flipping tails so many times because you were playing Snake Eye. Nuh-uh, I did it with other decks too. So, here our opponent's going to start with Fenrir, adding Unicorn, set 2, and then pass. During the initial game, I wondered if they were just using Kashtira as an engine and opened poorly. But the thing is, like, we were thinking about this later, me and Chad, that is, because again, we play these games on stream. And even if they had added Riseheart and gone for an Era, it's like, is that even better than just ending on Fenrir, right? I don't think it necessarily is. So anyway, this Droll is like a little annoying, but not the end of the world. I'm just going to use my Fenrir to battle over theirs and not have to deal with it. I'm going to then activate Shiren. Opponent's going to use the Ash Blossom on it, so I'm just going to normal summon it. Get a couple of mills, set up the Soliac, and then pass back over to them. Gonna max seed in during the draw phase, of course, because I know they're on Kashtira, so they have a cross out. That's fine with me. Just means we get to play an actual game of Yu-Gi-Oh! You know? Okay, let's see how they follow up. Yeah, they do have the Unicorn. We know about that. So we're going to mill with the Shiren, or the Scream, rather. It does hit the Havness. Opponent is going to called by the Havness, though, so no fusing for us. Wow, Fenrir called by Crossout, but they didn't have plays. That's so unfortunate for them. Alright, Unicorn's going to activate. We get to use the Soliac to negate that, and then just concede. Because at this point, they're effectively out of stuff. They only have one card left in hand, and not only are they out of stuff, but then I get to, of course, activate the Shiren effect and then do my own thing. So there we have it. There is a nice set of games for us here. Hope you enjoyed those. I really like this deck. I definitely plan on coming back to it. Maybe even during the season I might make another video because I love Revolution Synchron, and it's like I've got the playset of it. I'm going to use it, and this is a very cool deck to use it with. If I do find some... I'm still exploring Sprite Synchro. I get the occasional comment about it. It's still on my brain. I just want to figure out... I just want to do more tinkering with it before I present a new build for it. But the gears are turning, don't worry. That's another deck that I could potentially see myself using Revolution Synchron in. But anyway, that'll do it for this video. Thanks for watching these games. Let's move now to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for support there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.